Hey, Tim, did you know that sometimes when you buy something, it actually does some good in the world? That's exactly what's going on with the newest Good Taste Gummies flavor, Patriot Pop at Kind Goods. Every time you pick up a 1,000 milligram tin, Good Taste donates $1 to Dogs for Our Brave. That's a charitable organization that's helping support veterans with trained service companions. It's such an easy way for you and me and everybody else to make our purchases matter. So next time you're at Kind Goods, grab a pack of Patriot Pop gummies and be part of something that gives back all year long. Hi, welcome to Greenway Audio Magazine. I'm Brandon Dunn, and with me today is not Tim Pickett. Tim is off traveling the world, being super sexy as he should be. In his place today, our guest and co-host for the afternoon, Dr. Stephanie Cernicek, the chief science operator for MANA, adjunct professor and board member at SLU for the cannabis science program, MoCan Trade Board of Directors and chair of the manufacturing board?
Yeah. It's a committee. But thank you.
Committee.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's other stuff. There's a long curriculum vitae that we could go through and stuff like that. So now you do me. You introduced me. No, I'm just kidding. So super excited to have you on. Obviously, I've been a big fan of you since the early days of the industry, and in my eyes, you're one of the founders of, the industry in Missouri because of what you've done, and where you've been, and you've kind of been on the ground floor since the launch of the industry, essentially. And I know you started at Belief, and now you've been at MANA for, it seems like forever now.
Yeah, about
is it
4 years?
Wow.
4 years. But started in the industry in 2016. So in cannabis years, that's about 1,000,000 years.
Because you were with Belief whenever Belief had the hemp program.
Yep. Yeah. Back in 2016, it was a hemp program ran by the Department of Agriculture just for people with intractable epilepsy. So it was super small, very narrow program that I think maybe at the max there was 90 patients in the state.
And 2 licenses. It was you guys and Noah's Ark, right?
Yep.
And so, we've talked before about like the very early days of medical, and we've talked before to people from Noah's Ark and Belief, and obviously I've talked to some of the different patients and stuff from that time period, and we talked about the legislation and stuff like that. Even just to produce that, it was not a hugely popular decision at the time that it was being fought on the floors of the legislature, and Eric Schmidt was one of the big vocal champions for that at the time because of his son, and that was really the thing that kind of opened the doors to medical marijuana in the state of Missouri. Was after people got over their initial resistance and saw the success of this and saw real change in some people's lives. So I guess thank you, because without you, we don't have any of this, and I'm probably still working in a room with fluorescent lights overhead and hating just existing from 9 to 5 most days. So
yeah, it's definitely been a journey, but it's fun seeing the changes through basically every iteration of the program in the state. Going from the Department of Agriculture overseeing the hemp and CBD licenses to now Department of Health and Senior Services overseeing everything going through medical and into adult use. It's been a fun journey.
And you talk about the journey. So you guys could only manufacture, I believe it was just one product. It was just tincture whenever we're talking about 2016, right?
Yeah, yeah. We were limited. So we had to grow the hemp plants, obviously, in our facility. Everything, just like it is now, was tracked and traced. The state had full access. We used a different system than metric. We used something called BioTrack, very similar. Um, so everything was tracked and traced, but there were limits. Just like you've seen probably in the media recently, there were limits on hemp and that the THC content couldn't exceed 0.3% THC, which is actually kind of hard to do when you're growing high quality CBD plants. Um, so we extracted it. The only things we could really make with it were tinctures, um, mostly because this was intended as true medicine. This really wasn't intended for any kind of recreational thing. And honestly, most of the people that we saw were young children with very serious, diseases and things like that. And so you wanted to create something that was truly full spectrum, that would have the entourage effect, that would help as much as possible, um, and be as easy as possible for their caregivers to administer. So at Beleaf, we made full spectrum, completely full spectrum tinctures, and then we mixed it with MCT oil to make it. And it worked really, really well. Some of the stories we had from patients, um, you know, going into it as a scientist, you're always skeptical. But then when you have parents saying, my 6-year-old was nonverbal and now they're talking, and like that's a huge impact, or they were going from 300 seizures a day down to 5 or 6. Like that's complete changes in somebody's quality of life.
Yeah, that's huge. Um, at Mana, you guys have kind of started with some of the medical products and stuff like that, and then one of the big things you guys have done is create some of your own brands and stuff. How do you contrast, because there's medicinal value in gummies, right? But how do you contrast where the market is now with where you started, and how do you feel about it?
Well, it's definitely very different. At Mana, our main product line is Tsunami, and this whole brand is geared at a fun, active lifestyle, adults that want to have fun, want to relax, have a good time. And so the brand is really kind of focused on high potency. Um, our smallest gummies that we make are 30 milligrams per gummy, and our highest are 200 milligrams per gummy. So, it's really more about having a good time. Um, a lot of people do see medical benefit from it just because of the potency. Um, if you need 200 milligrams, you don't necessarily want to eat 20 gummies to get there. So having it kind of compacted into one gummy can definitely be helpful.
So as we've gone through, you guys, in your 4 years at Mana, you guys have changed product lines a few times. You guys have done some different stuff. Tsunami was created in Missouri, right?
Yeah. It's a brand that we made up. When I first came over here, they had some consultants that super generic gummies. They were actually under the license name. Our license name is Noah's Ark Foundation, which is funny because it was the other hemp CBD company.
Right.
There's only two. And so they had, gummies, and they had vapes under that line. That was really it. No real marketing, no real branding, kind of just very plain generic brand, because the intent at the beginning of this whole thing was, let's just get something out. So when we came on, just from my experience at Beleaf, formulating just tons of products there, and knowing how important branding is. I just knew it wasn't going to work unless we created something of our own, something that, is eye-catching. And I really like what we ended up with. We worked with a local firm to help us develop the brand. The wave on our tsunami packaging is actually hand drawn. It's not like just a copy off the famous artwork. It's hand drawn by a local artist. So it's pretty cool.
I mean, you guys Mana's become one of the bigger players in the gummy space with Tsunami. I think that Tsunami is one of the more recognized brands in the state right now. The artwork and the logo, the overextended T and stuff like that is just kind of iconic at this point in Missouri, and the ride the wave catchphrase is super vibey, and you guys always seem to have some kind of cool in-store either art or some kind of giveaway or something like that going on at whatever dispensary I happen to walk into. I've seen skateboards, I've seen like big igloo coolers, and it just seems like you guys are always in a place where you're kind of meeting people where they're at for that particular brand. And so it's been sorry. It's been really fun to watch the evolution of where you guys were and where you are now. But that's not the only brand you guys are producing at Mana right now.
Right. Yep. We also produce Escape Artist, which is a topical brand. It's definitely a very high-end premium brand. It's one of the only topicals that's water soluble. So, if you put it on your hurt knee or hurt back, it's actually going to permeate that skin membrane, really get into the muscles and actually help.
And Escape Artist is much more on the traditional like therapeutic side of medical marijuana and stuff like that. The topical brand, I think you guys have been nominated for multiple awards with Escape Artists over the last couple years. I know that between those two brands, you guys kind of service both sides of what people's expectations at dispensaries are, is the full medical experience and the hey, watch this experience.
Yeah. The Tsunami for sure is the hey, watch this. We've even we've gotten videos from consumers before, like, just took a 200 milligram gummy, let's play mini golf, see how it goes.
That's awesome.
But that's the intent with the brand, is just be fun, be out there. That's why we have bright, bold colors on all of the packaging. And yeah, that's exactly why when we do giveaways, it's fun stuff: skateboards, paddle boards, Yeti coolers, just things that promote getting out there and having fun.
And I think that while it's super cool to sit back and binge Netflix and have a little Chinese food or some tapas or something like that, I think that's kind of the cool part about cannabis, especially edibles nowadays, is that it's starting to be kind of the same social lubricant that we've seen alcohol be in the past, but with, for one, a lot less long-term damage. You can take 200 milligram gummy versus drinking 6 to 12 beers and have a very similar experience. And mini golf is exactly where you should be whenever you take a 200 milligram gummy. The skateboarding, maybe you guys should throw a helmet in next time. But that should be the vibe, is like, it's a brand built on having fun and, riding the wave. The whole point of adult use is it's called recreational so that you can go and do recreational activities. It's supposed to be meant to have fun. And I think what you guys have built and represent with the product, the flavors, the different things that you've done the different things you've done promotion wise all kind of play into the same thing. Now, while it's a light and fun brand, you guys, I think one of your most successful flavors so far came out earlier this year, and it was the pink drink flavor, and that was in collaboration with New Growth Horizons. Can you tell us a little bit more about what went into that and why it was such a hit?
Yeah. So we had, first of all of our flavors. We've got tons of flavors. They're all locally developed, custom made for us, all natural. And one of the ideas we had was, people love pink drink. They love pink Starburst. They love the pink drink at Starbucks. They just love that strawberry vanilla flavor. So we had our local company formulate this flavor for us. They knocked it out of the park. And so earlier this year, we were like, well, let's try to release it as sort of like a limited time only thing. So we partnered with New Growth Horizons, which is connected to Proper. It's a nonprofit that they've been donating to all sorts of different things. And so we connected with them about a Pride gummy for June. So we did a pink drink Pride gummy. Got to do a great, rainbow package. Turned out really, really awesome. Had, great dispersion in the state. We were able to donate money to New Growth Horizon, which was donated to Promo. And it turned out really well. So we said, let's try it again. Let's do it in October for breast cancer. Breast cancer is something that affects so many people. My mom's a survivor of breast cancer, thankfully completely in remission. But it just, affects so many people.
Yeah.
Let's try to do it. Let's bring pink drink out for that. We'll go all pink. So this is the only package where our wave is completely pink. The package is pink. And it turned out great. We raised over 10 grand that we donated to New Growth Horizon. And I believe that all went to a foundation called Pink Ribbon Good. So they directly help people going through breast cancer and other types of cancers, giving them the support they need.
I know you guys are nominated for Best of the Industry with Greenway for pink drink this year. So some of the other flavors that we see in the background, I know my favorite flavor was, I can't remember what you guys actually call it, but it's Mountain Dew Baja Blast is what I call it.
Yep. Yeah. So we, our staff, they always get input into our flavors. They're the people trying it. Anytime they come up with ideas, it's like, yeah, let's give it a go. That was one of their ideas. We worked with our flavor company. They were able to make it. We call it Ozark Dew.
Ozark Dew, yeah,
trying to give it a little bit of a Missouri name.
Yeah, it's definitely not in any way related to Mountain Dew Baja Blast at all.
It's completely different. It's Missouri thing. Ozark Dew, it's another flavor that I think they just nailed. And it tastes great. It tastes just like it.
It does. It's so good. I know you guys are doing, I see some of the dual chambers behind you on
those are single chambers. They look like that because they're just really big. So those are 2 gram.
Oh, okay.
2 gram vapes.
Okay.
We do all in one vapes. We do a 1 gram and a 2 gram. And a lot of the flavors mimic our gummy flavors. We've got a black cherry, that's our number 1. And so we try to keep them in parallel, but the truth is our flavors are always changing for our vapes. We just kind of cycle through different things, whatever people think is fun at the time.
Nice.
Our orange crush and our black cherry tend to be standards, but we just kind of rotate flavors. keep it
Mix and
fresh.
match the rest of it. Um, do you guys still make Bang?
We don't. Bang, the chocolate company, actually went out of business, I want to say at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
Uh,
I knew I hadn't seen it on dispensary shelves in a while, so.
yeah, so we tried to launch it here in Missouri. Um, not every product you launch is going to work out. We've had quite a few things that we've tried that either the market just wasn't ready for, or there were other products already in the market. And things like chocolate, it's already a very small, narrow space. Then there's people making chocolate that are doing a good job right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's the market is really saturated in the manufacturing space.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
to
difficult. That's part of why we don't make a 10 milligram gummy. I mean, dispensaries already have 10, 20 options for 10-gram gummies on the shelves. It's like, well, let's just not let's not bother. Let's hit them high, go on the other end.
that's actually I never thought of it that way. As like especially as a relatively low dose person, I've never thought about the strategy behind let's not focus on competing where there's more people. Let's compete, at the top where, we can be one of the top contenders, because you guys were one of two or three people to be really high concentration, 1,000+ milligrams per bag. Back in medical, it was like you and
Yeah,
Cosmic and Zen, I think, was the only other one that had um, that high of milligrams per bag for a while. And then obviously, it's
yeah,
expanded and stuff like that. But for a long time, high dose was 300 milligrams in a bag. And
yeah,
now that's kind of become standard. Low dose is
right.
what I take, 5 to 10 milligrams. And then what used to be high dose is now, that 300 range or so. And there's still tsunami territory, which is, 1,000 milligrams.
Yeah, yeah. Now we have our product line called Swells, which are single gummies, but they actually have score lines in them. And so we've got a 100 milligram gummy, a 200 milligram gummy. The great thing about these is that the score lines actually work. So our gummies are pectin based. So
Shots
part of
fired.
part of being pectin based is that it will actually pull right apart. So if you have one of those gummies, you can actually pull it apart at those score lines without, you don't need to get a knife out or anything like that. It's not going to get your fingers all sticky. And you can actually, if you need to, you can dose it down to the 10 milligram dose or the 20 milligram dose. It's very easy to do.
Uh, I I believe I got one of the pear version of those.
Yeah,
And that's been one of my favorite. Like, there's a few that are scored out in the space right now. Um, I won't mention any of them, even though I like some of them, because you did kind of put them on blast that their score lines don't really work. Because, but I'm a big fan of the score lines, even if they don't work.
it,
Just so
it
that
does
you
at least
have
give you a guide,
exactly, so that
when you're,
you can get the dosage. But there is a big difference between a Kit Kat bar and a Hershey's bar. A Kit Kat always breaks right on that line. Hershey's bar, you clip it and all of a sudden you got half a candy bar in your hand. So
yeah,
um it is
it's,
important,
it's,
and you guys are doing it the right way.
yeah, it's honestly part of the formulation that we developed, that pectin base. It, it's like a really great texture. It's not too sticky, doesn't stick to your teeth, pulls apart solidly, like it doesn't string out. Um, so it ended up working really, really well with these molds.
Yeah, it's a great gummy for grandma. You don't have to worry about it pulling her dentures out or anything. There's no awkward stuff after dinner at Thanksgiving or anything. She's not stuck together. Um, what what are some of the things that you guys have tried that didn't work over the last couple years? And then let's talk about some of the things, including Tsunami, that we've seen that have worked really, really well and what you guys are looking at ahead of time.
Yeah, we had a licensed brand that we tried to launch of sublingual mints. And, the whole concept I think is amazing. I still think it's a great product. Unfortunately, the state just, I think, wasn't ready for it. We released it during medical. It was a very low dose, so it's 5 or 2.5 milligram sublingual mints dissolve in your mouth. I felt they tasted great, it looked great, it worked well. Um, but at that time, our industry and our consumers are still very new to cannabis. And at that time, a lot of people were just looking for what's got the most THC, what's the most bang for my buck. And this product wasn't that. Um, I think if it was introduced now, it'd probably do really well. I feel like ratio mints are a great product. I feel like they do really well in the market. It was real similar to that, but at the time when we released it, just I think the state wasn't ready.
Just send a case to my house. I'll make sure that the people that are your target audience are getting the message. Um, the the sublingual thing. It seems like there's a lot of people that at first sublingual was kind of like, oh, I don't. To your point, they didn't really get it because unless you've had to take medicine in that way, it's not a typical or normal thing to go through and put something under your tongue a lot of times. So now that the market is starting to mature and is starting to become more educated on some things, do you think that there will be, callbacks to products and things like what you were just saying? Do you think the market will be ready for, trying that again? Will that be something that you guys reintroduce?
I think I think now that we're a little bit more into adult use, we've got more and more consumers that aren't afraid to admit that they use cannabis anymore. More and more people, soccer moms or business people, just trying to relax at the end of the day. Um, I think now that we've got more consumers and more education out there, I think a lot of these lower dose products will do well. I think ratioed products are going to start to do well, things that are kind of meant for like sleep or meant for relaxation, things that have targeted benefits. I think
Mm-hmm.
those will start to do really well now that we're kind of past the let's just get as much THC as possible phase.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I see those in the future. I'm not sure if that's something Tsunami would do. Tsunami's not meant to really be medical, but perhaps another product line.
Okay. Uh, with you guys being an independent manufacturer, do you see we've had a lot of independent manufacturers and a lot of independent brands on since we've been doing this, and one of the big things that we hear a lot about is shelf space and wholesale prices and just the overall, it's difficult to be a manufacturer, to be independent. um, where do you guys see that going, especially with how you formulate some of your things with the hemp industry on the decline now as well? Because that means that high quality CBG, additional things that a lot of times we're putting into our supplementations, are now going to go up in price as well, right? Is
Yeah.
that something that impacts you guys, or are you only using plant material from whatever you're buying wholesale?
Um, so our escape artist line does use CBD and CBG. I don't think that we've seen a price increase for that yet. That's something that Escape Artist as a licensed brand takes care of for us. Our Tsunami products don't have any CBD or CBG in them.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
but it is hard as a standalone manufacturer. We rely heavily on our partnerships. We have really, really great partners that that's what's made this possible. So we've partnered with Amaze, we've partnered with Vibe, we've partnered with Sunrise, and that's where a lot of our input plant material comes from. We'll take it, extract it, create the distillate here in-house, and I think that's really key to how we've been able to produce products and produce them, at relatively low cost, which has been passed on to consumers. Um, we wouldn't be able to do that without our partners.
And you guys are talking about some of the top uh, cultivation companies in the state, and I think that uh, not a lot of companies advertise like who their throughput material comes from and stuff like that. But that would be a buying point for me in some cases, knowing that the flower that's being used is coming from one of my favorite growers or one of my favorite
Yeah.
cultivators as well. Um,
Yeah. We do try to feature them with our live resin SKUs. We have got live resin gummies. Um, if it says a particular strain, that is their strain. We haven't adulterated it. We've extracted it here in-house from fresh frozen plants. And that full spectrum live resin has gone directly into our gummies. Um, but even making distillate, fire in, fire out, even with something as simple as distillate, um, if we've got low quality plant material going into it, the distillate will be dark. We can't use it for anything. Nobody wants dark, bitter tasting distillate in a gummy that's 200 milligrams. It has to be good, clean, high quality distillate, or the gummy's going to taste awful, or the vape's going to be gross. Um, and so those inputs from those cultivators, I mean, it's top notch. So, even though we're going to distillate, we are, potentially losing terpenes. The the distillate always comes out great. Light color, awesome. Um, so I can't stress enough that, the partnerships that we have, how much that helps us.
I think high quality distillate kind of gets a bad reputation because everybody's like, oh, disty, blah, blah, blah. I love distillate, man. It's consistent. It makes me know that I'm going to have the same effects. I'm super sensitive to my body chemistry, like whatever I ate, that morning or whatever I drank is really impactful with whenever I smoke or if I eat or have a vape or anything that's live resin, full spectrum, anything like that, because it I'm really sensitive to what cannabinoid or what terpene or whatever it happens to be that I'm missing in that moment. And so I have a completely different experience having the exact same thing 3 days in a row, depending on what I ate or what I drank or how long it's been since I last ate. Whereas distillate, for the most part, there's a little bit of sensitivity to that, but it's not nearly as much. It's, have you eaten, not what did you
Yeah,
eat?
it's odd to describe it this way, but it's a really clean product. Um, we know what it's going to taste like. We know what it's going to look like, and so that lets us have a very consistent gummy line, a very consistent vape line. But we recognize that there are people that want live full spectrum products. So that's exactly why we have our live resin line. And it's the same thing. We've gotten great fresh frozen flower from Proper, from Vibe, from Amaze, um, and those strains really shine. So that's part of why we don't do a 200 milligram gummy for our live resin. That's a lot of product to go into one gummy. But we try our best to let those strains really shine, and we use flavors that complement the strain.
That's awesome.
All right. It is that time of year when everybody is pretending to be festive, stressing out about gifts, and eating way too many cookies. So Curio Wellness decided to step in with something a little bit more enjoyable. They just dropped their winter limited edition vapes, and honestly, the packaging is doing more for the holiday spirit than any of my actual decorations. They've got 5 brand new flavors: candy brandy, apple fritter, chocolate mint, iced cherry cookies, come on, and lava cake. If that doesn't scream holiday magic, I don't know what to tell you. It's like your favorite desserts teamed up with premium Curio cannabis and said, let's take the holidays up a notch, shall we? Same Curio quality, just dressed up for the holidays. These are limited time, so don't wait around. Stuff your own stocking early and grab Curio's winter limited edition vapes at a dispensary near you, Brandon. Happy holidays, everybody.
One of the things, because you come from a science background, you're probably one of the 2 or 3 most accredited people that we've had on to this point. And you know, your experience and your knowledge base is much more than what Tim or I either one has. So I'd like to take this opportunity to actually teach people a little bit and kind of give them, you know, peel back the curtain a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about the process and, you know, what you guys are doing that sets you apart from other labs and how you went through the processes, and even, you know, going down to the different methodology of extraction and how you're getting what you want out of each product?
Yeah. So like I said, everything we do is done in-house. Um, all starts with our extraction process. We do extraction at a very, very cold temperature. We actually cool down our machines with liquid CO2. We've got a big tank outside our building. Makes people think we're like a cultivator or something because we've got CO2 tanks, but we actually use it to keep our machine, our hydrocarbon machine, as cold as possible. So that's kind of the first step that we do is we're extracting with hydrocarbons. We use a blend. Um, that blend is mostly for when we're doing live resin. We want terpenes. We want all the cannabinoids. We want it to be as full spectrum as possible. But the things that we don't want are the fats, lipids, chlorophyll, things that could give it kind of a bitter taste. And so extracting at such a cold temperature gives us really high quality, really light colored oil that doesn't have some of that more bitterness in it that you would get from chlorophyll, fats, and lipids. After that, if it's live resin, we're just purging it to get any kind of residual hydrocarbons off, and then we're testing it. That's kind of the biggest thing is testing things multiple times. We want to make sure there's no hydrocarbons residuals in there. We want to make sure everything looks good and it's very high quality. And then it's going directly into our gummies. If it's going to distillate, we've got a really nice white film distillation system. Produces really, really great distillate oil. It'll go straight into that machine. We'll double distill it. So our first pass, we're actually pulling off the terpenes. The reason why we do that first is we don't want the terpenes to like burn. If we tried to just distill everything at once, we'd get kind of a burnt taste to our distillate. It might have a little bit of an odd smell. So we do a real low temperature, kind of a light pass, pull off any terpenes. Terpenes could be reused. We don't reuse them, but they're high quality and they could be reused. After that, we distill off the distillate, and because we take our time with it, we're not getting any kind of smell to it. It's super light in color, and that's really important when you're putting that much distillate into a single gummy. Our gummy formulation is something I did in-house. Probably a month or 2 worth of work, mostly at home making, non-medicated gummies just to get the texture down, get everything. My kids loved that month.
Oh
Getting
yeah.
to try all the non-medicated gummies and flavors. but once you get into that, then you start getting into the flavors. Like I said, we work with a local company that, you could give them the dumbest descriptions. We've told them, like, cherry popsicle, we want it to taste just like a cherry popsicle, and they'll get specific. Well, which brand? What exactly? Which cherry popsicle? And they'll get so specific. If you say you want peach, they're like, what kind of peach? And how ripe is the peach? And they can get super specific with it. And so they've helped us get us all the flavors that we need, anything we want. But the thing is not every flavor is the same when you're making a gummy. Gummies, especially with our recipe, really relies on the acidity of it. So one of the first things we do is we actually have to take the pH level of all of our gummies to see how acidic it is. And then we have to adjust our formula based off of that. Because the formula has to be adjusted to work through machines that will dose the gummies out into the molds. If it's too acidic, it'll solidify way too fast. If it's not acidic enough, it might never solidify. And so to get that perfect texture, every single flavor we're testing. So it's a process.
How are you guys? I don't think half the people would know that the acidity of the gummy itself was going to impact the flavor and stuff. But it makes sense whenever someone says it to you. But it's not something you ever think about in the process of going through it and things like that. How are you guys creating your flavor profiles? Or what flavor you're going to do next? You said that you take input from the staff and stuff like that. Is it something where you're like, this is a flavor I'd like to recreate? Or are you guys trying to create your own, high concept, we want to take lemon chicken wings, like, to, the first person that ever did lemon pepper on chicken wings was probably going pretty high concept, and everybody was like, stick to buffalo and barbecue, man. and now lemon pepper is where it's at.
Yeah,
is it
we
that
try
type
not
of thing?
we try not to go too high concept. And part of that's we want it to be relatable. Yuzu is a great flavor, but it's not so relatable. People don't really see that in their everyday life. When you talk about things, right? We talk about things
putting some folks on blast with yuzu. Goodness gracious!
It's a great thing, but people want stuff that I think that they recognize, that they know. So we try not to go too crazy. But a lot of our flavors, staff ideas, to help get those developed. And of course, when we're R&Ding, the non-medicated versions, everyone's trying them. Everybody's giving notes, because that's the point at which we can adjust things. And if our strawberry flavor needs to taste a little bit more, sour or whatever, we can do those pinpoint changes and adjustments.
Just like to let everybody know that the opinions of Dr. Stephanie Cernicek as it relates to gummies containing yuzu are not reflected of Greenway Audio Magazine or our sponsors.
In no way is yuzu bad. It's a great flavor.
I know, and it really is.
I think sometimes people, if it's a word they don't know, or
100%.
something they're not familiar with, they're more likely to shy away from it.
That's the thing Tim said whenever we were talking to Sam from Kind Goods and then later on to Lindsay, was he had no idea what yuzu was before they came out with blackberry yuzu gummies. And he's like, now all of a sudden I see yuzu everywhere because I'm looking for it and I'm paying attention to it. He's like, but I'd never even heard of yuzu before. And I think we see that a lot of times in the cannabis industry, or in any industry really. But you stumble upon something and then all of a sudden you never realized that it's everywhere. Or
Yeah.
shortly after you discover your first favorite, then all of a sudden it's all over the place. And we've seen that a few different times. I have a few flavor suggestions for you to really ingratiate into the Missouri community, if you would be so kind as to partner with me on these.
Yeah.
I less than 1% is fine. I'm a man of the people. I just want to give the people what they want. So, for Kansas City, we would like to see burnt ends flavor.
Yeah.
Burnt ends gummies.
Burnt ends, barbecue, for sure.
Yeah. Now it has to be burnt in specifically because whenever we go to St. Louis, we would like to either have toasted ravioli or we would like to have barbecue pork steak, but specifically it needs to be covered in Maul's barbecue sauce. Yeah. In Columbia, we would like to have stale beer and cold pizza flavor to represent the MU campus. And
is it Shakespeare's pizza or Gumby's? Like it kind of matters.
Gumby's 100%, because of the stale beer. It goes better with the stale beer. Now the stale beer can be any product anywhere as long as it's dog shit cheap.
Yeah. Hams.
Yeah, so 100%. Springfield would like to see cashew chicken flavored. And Cape Girardeau just started speaking French, so I don't know. Those are the suggestions from around the state, just so you know. There you go. Maybe partner with Emos on those toasted ravioli gummies.
Yeah, I think we'll have to make those for next April. You're gonna have to try every single one of those.
I swear I would. You could send me one of those like Jelly Belly like worst flavors bags. I would try every single one of them because you never know. Provel cheese is going to be a banger gummy. Is all I'm saying.
There could be a savory gummy market. I don't know. Could be out there.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out. Even if there's not a whole market, there's one guy that'll buy a lot of them. If we can, if the score marks are working, all I need is for them to come in the one pack so that I can break them off a little bit at a time. I know that we're getting towards the end of our time and stuff, and I know you're super busy, so I really do appreciate you coming on and humoring me and talking to me and educating me. So we talked a little bit of science. Because of your background, I would like to know what you see as like, what's your biggest pet peeve in the cannabis industry?
I don't know. I guess I've never really thought about it. I think maybe when it comes down to a truly medicinal product, I think maybe a pet peeve would be that people are always looking for the highest amount of THC, and that's not really where it's at. To get sort of the most efficacy, you really have to have something that's well-rounded, entourage effect, lots, good terpenes specific to what you need, and that doesn't mean it's like some sativa indica hybrid kind of scheme. It's really more about the cannabinoid profile, the terpene profile, the overall, what that product is. I think there can always be more education around that.
And then what's the biggest thing that you see for Mana in 2026, and what's the biggest shift in the industry that you've seen since you started to now, whether it's just in Missouri or whether it's nationwide?
I think the biggest thing for Mana is we're going to really keep focusing on partnerships. We've got some partnerships in the works to try to release, some more exclusive items. I think that's probably our biggest thing that we've got going on. I think the market as a whole, probably this next year is just going to be really interesting to watch. You know, there's a lot of, I guess, horse trading going on. People want to make sure they have a dispensary. You see companies growing, you know, Vibe has been growing a lot, gaining dispensaries. I think we'll see a lot more of that, which is great. You know, I don't necessarily want a consolidated market. I want a more well-rounded market.
I love that. That's a fantastic take. Is there any parting wisdom or final thought you have before you get back to the world of running successful manufacturing license here in Missouri?
If you haven't tried out Tsunami yet, try it out. Ride the wave.